breaths. Oh, are we recording?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, let's go. Right, good afternoon. Just a very quick presentation based on the third assignment for me, which is based on non-fatal offences. And the hand-in date will be December the 8th, which hopefully gives me plenty of time to mark your work. And after that, you've heard the news, haven't you?
Yeah.
I'm still in tears. I shouldn't be saying this on camera, shouldn't I? Right, anyway, right, so the first thing is part A is all about non-fatal offences. So the central question you need to think about is Hugo guilty of an offence? That allows you to think about the possible offences under the Non-Fatal Offence Against the Person Act and the common law. And then once you've chosen a particular offence or offences, you can then identify the elements. But the key is reading the question again and identifying the actual facts of the case. And what makes it easier for you is ask yourself, how much injury did the defendant suffer? So if I just put that on the board, how much? So how much injury did the defendant suffer? And then apart from that, work out the nature of the mental state of the defendant when he committed the injury to the victim. Just a reminder then, what injury was sustained by the victim? Yeah? Blinded eye, absolutely. So that's what you've got to have in the back of your mind. And then you can decide on the appropriate type of offence. If we move on then, so consider possible offences. And the idea here is you list as many offences as possible, but then through a method of elimination, you get rid of the ones that don't apply. So consider possible offences: example, assault, battery, section 47, section 20, and section 18. And the idea here is, just in brief, give reasons why all of them don't apply at all, 3 of them don't apply, and so on and so forth. It could be that you'll be considering more than one possible offence. You don't have to just consider one. It might be that there could be more than one offence applicable, depending on how you decide to make your argument. But the key thing is, don't forget you have limited word count. You only have roughly 1,000 words for the whole of Part A, including Larry. Yeah? So it's all about being able to put in the relevant information. Right, so consider the actual or relevant offence or offences. So out of the 5, which one are you going to go for? What gives you justification for going for a particular type of offence? And that's all going to be important. The mental element. Hugo beat up Victor very badly. What does that mean in terms of his intention? Was he just reckless? Did he have actual intention? You've got to talk about all those points. But I think the biggest part of your answer will be, once you've chosen the offence, actus reus and mens rea, that's what it's all about. So pick out what the actus reus is, talk about what the mens rea is, fit it into the scenario, and then decide a conclusion. So let's assume that we're thinking of section 47. Yeah? Just an assumption. So you're thinking of section 47. You've got to define what offence may be committed under section 47. So offence. So clearly state the name of the offence. And it goes without saying that once you've identified the name of the offence, clearly explain the actus reus, clearly explain the mens rea, and then pick out certain phrases or words in the assignment that justify your use of section 47, if you feel that's applicable. And I'm just using that as an example. Yeah? I'm not saying section 47. It could be, may not be. You have a think. So that's what the next bit's all about there. So elements of the offence, what's the actus reus of section 47? We know it's causing the victim to either fear immediate force against their person or to actually apply unlawful force. So make sure that's clear, because that's the bit I'll be ticking when I'm going through your answer. Pick out the offence, but your actus reus has to be spot on. Yeah, don't just put, causing somebody to fear immediate violence. That's only half an answer. It's violence against their person, but also the battery side of things. So if you're choosing section 47, just refer back to the notes and make sure you nail the actual actus reus. Mens rea as well, talk about that. And that's why I referred to the fact that when Hugo went out to fight, he beat him up very badly. So was he reckless there? Did he have intention? How does Brown fit into all of this scenario? Why do I mention Brown? What did they do prior to the fight? If you read but could you do that? So see also Brown. I've forgotten what year it is. 1990 something. 3. Anyway, you can check your textbooks. That's for section 47. If you're using 47, then don't forget to clearly justify the injury. Because what you might want to do is also suggest, this is 47 still, so draw your conclusions and then don't forget possible sentences, and don't forget 5 years is the maximum. It doesn't mean you get that. That's the worst scenario. So that's still under section 47. But as mentioned before, don't forget, consider the injury. We spoke about bruises and cuts and so on. So section 47 is a little bit wider in terms of the injury sustained by the victim. But if you think about blinded in one eye and the impact it might have on the victim, does it sit within section 47? It's entirely up to you. You have a think about that. What I would say is, I'm not saying this applies, but I'm saying, I don't know, it could be. Is their intention, if there's any element of recklessness, then 18 will not apply, because you can only apply intention only. In other words, any offence under section 18 is a specific intent crime. So the main justification will be presence of intention and the fact that blinded in one eye is equal to what type of injury would you say? If you're blinded in one, if you're going to use section 18, how would you describe the injury? Just out of interest? How would you describe the injury?
GBH.
And if it is GBH, what does that mean? What does grievous bodily harm mean? What cases support the meaning of grievous bodily harm and so on? And still, don't forget, this is the test, still working within the limited word count of 1,000 words, 1,000 words, because then the other 500 will be for sexual offences. Okay? You've got an extra 200 to play with legal authority and so on. And I suppose, I don't know, being Black Friday, so let's push it at worst to 1,800. I think we should be happy with 1,800 at worst. Yeah, at worst. But you don't have to go up to that word count. Right, so don't forget, for the first part of the question, you might consider 2 different offences, but talk about them very well. Because it's a bit like maths, isn't it, with these offences? You've got a clear definition of the actus reus and mens rea and so on. Make sure you get it spot on. Let's switch now to Larry. So we've dealt with Hugo. We're now looking at Larry. Again, central question, is Larry guilty of an offence? It goes without saying that really, depending on your knowledge of the question and linking it to suitable case law, out of the 5 possible offences, there really is only one. Excuse me. So, technically speaking, this is a right or wrong answer. If you pick the wrong section, then you'd have to do it again. Okay? So, identify the offence. Having said that, no, let's think again. When I say there is only one offence applicable, that's not entirely right. There could be two. So let's get that right. There could be two possible offences, not one, two. Having said that, yeah, that there can only be two. So if you discuss more than two, then you're on the right track. So again, I'm just giving you an example. So you've got an example there. Let's assume section 20 applies here. If section 20 applies, and there's a simple formula. Yeah, once you pick the offence, make sure you support it with legal authority, and make sure you split the offence into the actus reus and mens rea. Make sure you explain the elements, and all I have to repeat that you've only got limited words, so do it sensibly, and that's why first draft you've got 2,000 words or whatever. Have a look again, redraft, readjust, and make sure you stay within, as I said today, I said last time 1,700, we do an extra 100 at worst for the bits that you add on. So what's the actus reus of section 20? Talk about that. What's the mens rea of section 20 if it applies? It goes without saying that there's a seminal case for section 20, which I'm sure you know about, so include that. Don't need the facts of that particular case, but I need the legal principle from that case that relates to section 20. Okay, so any good criminal law textbook will give you the information that you need on... Were you going to ask Brittany? No, okay. You can ask questions even on recording. Yeah, you can ask questions. So again, section 20, draw your conclusions, and then suggest possible sentences. So that's a suggestion for you to think about and see whether it applies. If you sit within just section 20 and give it an excellent explanation without considering anything else, that'll be fine. That'll be fine. So in other words, you've just dealt with one. But there is a slim possibility that you might think of section 18. It could be section 18. In fairness, if you accurately explain why you must consider section 18, then I think it's fair to say a distinction is nearly guaranteed. And it's because once you read the actual facts of the question, it might lead you to thinking that not just 20 might be applicable, but more suitably 18 might be a better option. But I need that reason why you would suggest. And if you give me a valid reason, as I say, I think straightforward, we're looking at 3 credit points at a distinction. Okay, and that will be confirmed on the 15th of... If you do what? If you give a reason after you've read the facts of the question, Larry's question, then, you know, if you give a reason why it looks more like a particular offence, but you're switching it to a different offence, then yeah, it demonstrates excellent thinking, analysis and application of law. So, actus reus of section 18, mens rea of section 18, draw your conclusions, maximum prison term and so on. And, the point I'm hoping to get across is the fact that it's not a difficult assignment, but it has to be methodical, and you just have to be accurate. Now, that's all that happened. To be honest, I'll be very surprised if anybody gets worse than a merit on this one. It's just literally using your textbooks, using the notes, identifying the elements of the offence, giving reasons, supporting with legal authority. Don't go too far over the word count, and you know, fairly straightforward. So that's section 18, just draw your conclusions, possible sentences, and then that's everything you need for the first half of non-fatal offences. 1,000 words roughly. 500 words on the next bit. So sexual offences, I think the key thing is define the offence in section 1 of the Sexual Offences Act 2003. Talk about the elements of rape, actus reus and mens rea. Make sure you get that right. So what is the actus reus? What is the mens rea? Don't only talk about intention when you talk about the mens rea, because we spoke about knowledge as well being an element of the mens rea. So it's just making sure that you're doing more of a mathematical exercise, making sure everything's well ordered and clearly explained. Okay, so that's section 1. I don't know, section 1. 300 words. 300 words, roughly. Gives you a rough idea. The next bit, is your hand falling off, Brittany? It's cold. This bit I've not done with you, so this demonstrates individual research. So what is section 2 of the sexual offences all about? So identify an offence. Once you identify the offence, we know what the formula is. What's the actus reus of section 2? What's the mens rea of section 2? Any case law, because don't forget, case law won't count, well, even though it does fall within the extra 300. But that's the bit I'm leaving for you as potential HE students to do a bit of independent research. And again, there are no difficulties there. And the final bit is section 3. So what is section 3 of the Sexual Offences Act 2003? Clearly name the offence, and then talk about the actus reus of section 3, talk about the mens rea of section 3, and give a suitable case to support the definitions of the offences that you've referred to. And if you've got the unlocking textbook, everything is in there. It's just a matter of residing within the 1800 words. And are there any questions at all you have for me? Otherwise, that is a quick wrap. And I'm just going to stop the camera now so I don't